It is a super exciting time for us here, but for folks that were on the press conference after the flight readiness review, you realize there's a lot of work and you have to do it carefully, and you have to go through every single milestone along the way to make sure that we are safely delivering the capability to fly our crews up to the International Space Station and make sure that they can come home back to their families. And so the team's been doing that since the flight readiness review on Monday. They worked through, checked out the rocket. Static fire went really well. No issues coming out of that. Made it through dry dress last night. Dry dress is where we make sure that the crew goes through and checks out and actually goes through the whole operation of loading the crew, checking things out, and making sure things will run smoothly as we're heading into our launch countdown. We have a few more milestones to go. We have a launch readiness review this evening at 8 o'clock. And in the morning, about 1 o'clock in the morning, we have our final weather briefing and to make the determination on whether we're ready to go moving into the countdown into the launch early Sunday morning. Right now, the weather's at the launch site's looking great. The weather along the abort sites, we look at the weather in our key high-risk areas to make sure that the abort weather looks good. And right now, it's kind of marginal along that first staging area. So we're continuing to get ready for the next step and making sure that we've got a safe and reliable crew transportation service for our crews. Now, I'm very happy to have Woody here. Woody Holberg is, and I found out he's a classmate of two of our crew members, Raja and Kayla, and he came in the 2017, the Turtle class. And I'm trying to figure out which one's Michelangelo and which one's Donatello. I'll have to talk to Raja and Kayla after this and find out. But I'm very, very excited to have, I'm hearing that there's like a turtle takeover that's going to be starting to happen with our missions coming up, and really excited to hear from Woody.
Well, thank you, ma'am. Yes, it's slowly happening. I'm truly honored to be here and so excited to watch my friends fly in space. These 4 astronauts are exceptional operators, and I know that they're going to do an exceptional job on their 6-month mission, carrying out important scientific research and maintenance on board the International Space Station. And with their mission, they'll be carrying forward NASA's amazing 20-plus year legacy of continued human presence in space and paving the way for our future Artemis missions to set up a sustainable presence on the moon. Now, as Kathy mentioned, this launch is special for me. I have 2 classmates on Crew-3, Raja and Kayla, and I know that our entire class, the Turtles, are so proud of Raja and Kayla and so excited to watch them fly in space. It is not every day that you climb aboard a rocket that's capable of accelerating you to 17,500 miles an hour. And those who have seen a launch in person, maybe here at Kennedy, know that it is a powerfully emotional experience. And it's even more so when people you know and love are on board. And so Raja, Tom, Kayla, and Matthias, you are amazing human beings. We wish you safe travels to the International Space Station. Our hearts are with you. Go Crew-3 and go Endurance.
Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you for that last word there, Woody, because at the heart of the Commercial Crew program, as we know, are the people here. So that was a great way to end your comments. So again, thank you for the opening remarks from everyone, and we're going to start taking questions now from reporters on the line. The first person we have is Marcia Dunn from the Associated Press.
Yes, hi, Administrator Nelson. This crew is going to be the welcoming committee for multiple tourists, and I'm wondering, do you have any qualms about non-professionals showing up at the station's doorstep in greater numbers than ever before? Any concerns that one of them might accidentally break something, pose a safety risk, or maybe just prove a general nuisance? Thanks.
Marcia, the first part of your audio cut out, so would you please repeat the question?
Yes, this crew is going to be the welcoming committee for multiple tourists. And do you have any qualms about non-professionals showing up at the station's doorstep in greater numbers than ever before? any concerns that one of them might accidentally break something, pose a safety risk, or maybe just prove to be a general nuisance to the crew?
By the way, we've got a backhoe or a truck, and the beep beep is going on out here, and that's where it's difficult for me to hear. So basically, your question is, what do you think about the private astronauts? So just coming in the building today, I got with Reed Wiseman, the head of the astronaut office, and I said, tell me, how was the experience with the Russian film crew, the actress and the film director? And he said they were constantly with the Russian commander, and it was a good experience. And they stayed in the Russian module except the time that had been agreed to, that they could go a short duration and film in the cupola. That was a good experience. And so as we go forward, we go on a case-by-case basis. Now, you've got a private astronaut that's coming up with the Russians again. The Russians take responsibility for them. And on any of the private astronaut missions that we have, there is a clear understanding that the former astronaut that is with them is responsible and takes responsibility for their actions, because we cannot have a situation where our permanent crew on the station in any way is impaired in their productivity as a result of all their tasks. And of course, that's quite extensive. As you know, there's a detailed timeline that goes on every flight day as to the tasks that they need to accomplish. So we're going to make sure that they are prepared, that they have bonded as a crew, that they are well-versed in all the emergency procedures, and all of this is a part of the conditions of any of the private astronauts in the American part coming onto the International Space Station. Understand, separate and apart from the Inspiration 4 mission, that did not come to the International Space Station. That was entirely done by SpaceX on their own mission. So I hope that answers it for you, Marcia.
Thank you, Administrator, and thank you for that question, Marcia. Next one is Jeff Faust from Space News.
Hi, good afternoon. Question for the Administrator. The revised version of the Build Back Better Act that was unveiled yesterday sharply reduces the amount of funding for NASA infrastructure and also doesn't include any funding, as with previous versions of the bill, for future lunar lander development. What does this mean for your desires to rebuild NASA infrastructure at the various centers, as well as sustaining competition in the Artemis lunar lander program? Thank you.
All right, you're going to have to repeat the first part, because I was trying to say time out and increase the volume, and they have subsequently done that. So please go ahead, Jeff.
All right, well, take two. The revised version of the Build Back Better Act released yesterday sharply reduces the funding for NASA for infrastructure and also doesn't include anything for future lunar lander development. What does this mean for your plans to rebuild agency infrastructure at the various centers, as well as sustain competition in the lunar lander effort for Artemis? Thank you.
Okay, let me answer you very specifically. First of all, we've already passed a hurricane supplemental that gave about $350 million for infrastructure, which will include one of the top priorities of all infrastructure in NASA, which was the roof on the building at Michoud in New Orleans. That has also application to other centers, including Stennis. When you combine that with the money that was announced yesterday in what is the reconciliation bill, which you referred to as Build Back Better, if in fact that bill passes, and my expectation is that it will pass, then what you have is a total of about $1.5 billion for NASA, some of which is infrastructure, $1.5 billion that NASA did not have before. That is a considerable positive. In addition, in there to infrastructure is climate change. And of course, that's one of our top agenda items as well, especially with all of our very sophisticated spacecraft that are measuring what is happening to the Earth, and the big 5 observatories that we're going to put up over the course of the next decade. So $1.5 billion to the good. I think that's pretty good for NASA. Your question with regard to the human lander system, the big plus up on that comes in 23. And that is what we have been working with the Office of Management and the Budget on the President's next budget, and, oh, by the way, with both houses of the Congress to get the plus-ups there that we need for the 22 budget. The House and Senate are about the same, 150 million as given to the human lander system. That on top of what is being awarded, called Appendix N, so we could get these other companies going, and 5 were selected, giving them the seed money to get started on the competition that we will have in the future on the human lander system. All of that is happening. So what you want to look at, Jeff, is the 23 budget to see the big plus up.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And the next reporter is Stephen Clark from Spaceflight Now.
Thank you, Stephen Clark, Spaceflight Now. I think my question is for Kathy. The solar flare that erupted from the sun yesterday, is that something that is being watched, or something you expect to be an issue for launch this weekend? You know, abort weather notwithstanding, is that something that could cause you to delay the launch? Thank you.
No, we actually monitored it. You know, our mission management team for the International Space Station monitored it and worked the levels with SpaceX folks, and we've worked through it, and there aren't any issues to the avionics or anything else that for the on-orbit vehicle or our vehicles on the ground.
Next reporter is Amy Thompson from Space.com. Oh, I just heard that Amy actually dropped off, so Ken Kramer will take you now.
Oh, hi, thank you. Thank you for doing this. I have a question, probably for Bill Nelson, about the Russian cosmonauts flying on the Crew vehicles. I'm wondering how close are you to signing a contract with the Russians? And I also want to follow up on Jeff's question for the human lander. If you're only getting the money in 2023, how can you maintain a 2024 landing? Is that still possible on the moon? Thank you.
Well, that's why we didn't sit around until we know what's happened on the litigation. That's where Bob and Kathy and now Jim Free have already started getting the funding going with regard to that Appendix N. And I'll have Kathy speak to that. So it is what it is. Look, the decision was made in a panel led by Kathy last April. That decision was appealed in an administrative court. That court decided, and then that decision, which affirmed the decision of NASA on the first demonstration lander, was then appealed to a federal court that, in effect, acts like an appellate court. It's called the Federal Court of Claims. And so it is what it is. We have been held up, but that's why we didn't want to sit around while we were waiting for the judge, and started the effort to reach out and go ahead and start getting some of these designs done by different companies, and 5 were selected. Let me flip it to you, Kathy, for the detail.
Yeah, so there's really 2 activities. Unfortunately, with our procurements nowadays, we're kind of in these situations where we do have these protests after we make pretty key decisions. And so the team, I thought, did a really good job of putting together a robust procurement strategy where, even with the protests, they began work on these special small we call them broad agency announcements, to continue to make progress with multiple potential providers for our sustaining human lander systems. In addition, they were working their procurement strategy for the follow-on for the sustaining human lander system. Both those activities were outside of the Appendix A, the Option A activity, which was being assessed and in court. And so the team's been able to make progress over the summer, and like the administrator said, we are continuing to work on, design and development activities to deliver our sustaining human landing systems by the end of the 20s. I think the team's done a great job keeping multiple activities in flow, continuing to make progress and moving forward. I think you had a question about the crew swap. The Russians, based on the number of missions that SpaceX has flown, they've agreed to continue or to further the processing of our intergovernmental agreements, where we will eventually be flying a USOS crew member on the Soyuz, and at least flying a Russian cosmonaut on at least the SpaceX vehicles. We'll continue to work how that would work for our Boeing vehicles, but that's next step to come. But we're very, very excited to see that we have made progress with them on at least this first step going forward, and have our initial cosmonauts beginning to do assessments and training with suits and potential training, and us beginning to do the planning for that. We feel like that's the most robust strategy for us to keep station going.
Thank you, Kathy and Belle. And actually, we have a question from social media I want to throw out there. What are the main goals of this mission, and are there particular experiments that the astronauts will be working on? Whoever wants to take that one.
Well, all I can tell you is Joel Montalbano, the space station program manager, there's no rest for the weary on orbit. There's tons of work going on over the next 6 months. I mean, one of the favorite things we like to talk about is protein crystal growth, just because that's been an experiment that we have really gained expertise and begun to really learn to apply that to multiple key medicines and medical infrastructures going forward. We have a ton. What's amazing is we've got 3 polar, and there are little freezers that we're bringing down off of the space station, just chock full of science coming back on Crew-2 also. And this a new capability that we have moving forward means that we continue to be able to do the physical and the manufacturing sciences that we have going forward. Joe Montalbano will be coming on after our launch readiness review press conference, and you guys need to, I'll have him ready for his whole list of experiments because he loves to talk about it.
Perfect. All right, our next question is from reporter Russell Pounds from Pacific Rim Media.
Great. Thank you for doing this morning. Question for Administrator Nelson about creating opportunity. What are you looking forward to most in terms of the doors that commercial space can open for American business? You know, I see Estee Lauder and Adidas doing things up there. What are those doors and things that are most exciting for you?
Anything that the human imagination can do and prosper and utilize these unique properties of spaceflight in order to better humankind. And it goes from everything that Kathy just mentioned. We are beginning to see a breakthrough on the production of materials as well as pharmaceuticals, as well as the protein crystals. Since you asked, I'll just tell you that 36 years ago, I did one of the first protein crystal growth experiments, and the one that I did was crude by comparison to the automation, the temperature control, the vibration control that they have today. That we had none of that, and yet the results were dramatic of what crystals look like grown in microgravity. You take those, you apply those to research, whatever kind. They are talking now about stem cells. I got a briefing yesterday at a major medical center in America about taking stem cells, and they act different in microgravity. And they're even talking about this has the possibility of growing organs on orbit. And that's just orbit. Then take it on out. Take it out to the moon. Take it out to an asteroid. Think about mining possibly precious metals on an asteroid. I mean, we used to say the sky is the limit. That's not true anymore. The heavens are the limit.
Great. And then the next reporter is Stephen Clark again from Spaceflight Now.
Hi, thank you for taking another question. Follow up on, I think, Ken Kramer's question about the pending agreement with the Russians on crew swaps. A few weeks ago, during the pre-flight briefings, someone said Crew-3 was like the most earliest opportunity to have a cosmonaut on a commercial crew mission. Is that holding true, or does the seeming breakthrough this week from Roscosmos accelerate that and make Crew-4 a possibility? Thanks.
Well, our big challenge is it takes a while to build a suit, and you really want to make sure that you've got the right training suits and you've got the right flight suits and build. And so we want to make sure that we're giving SpaceX and the team time to get the suits right, and so we're aiming for Crew-5, which is right now about a year from now. So that's what we're targeting right now.
Thank you, Kathy. And there's actually another social question I wanted to share. This is, what piece of advice or words of encouragement would you give to our elementary students at Evans Elementary School that we could share? This is a question for Woody, by the way. I'm so sorry. Our theme this year, yeah, listen up, Woody. Our theme this year is one team, one mission, and revolves around space. Again, what words of encouragement would you give to elementary school students about this theme, one mission, one team?
Sure. I guess my words of encouragement, looking back on how I got here, would be to follow your dreams. And one thing I mean by that very specifically is that you may have interests outside sort of the core thing you're doing. And so in my particular case, I was going to graduate school for computer science, but I was also really interested in search and rescue. And I actually got advice telling me, you know, don't go do those other things because they're distracting you. And I'm so glad I went and did them because they were passions of mine and things I wanted to do. So
Perfect. And then we have Marcia Dunnigan from the Associated Press, if you'd like to give your question, Marcia.
Yes. Another question for you, Administrator Nelson. Sir, you mentioned the other big launch coming up, the James Webb Space Telescope launch. Could you please explain your rationale in sticking with the telescope's name despite a push by some to rename it after someone less potentially controversial? And what would it take for you to change your mind? Thanks.
Marcia, we are here for this crew mission. I'm going to keep the focus on our crew and the mission right ahead. I have already answered extensive questions on this issue and will be happy to do so in another forum with you and others. Thanks, Marcia.
And that's all the time we have for questions today. Administrator, do you actually want to have some closing remarks and again bring it back to why we're here today, which is Crew-3?
Well, you come right down to the moment as the countdown clock continues. And suddenly, when those motors light off and that energy is concentrated and you're going upward, it focuses everybody's attention. And there, in this case, are 4 human beings riding at the top of that rocket. We've done everything possible along with our commercial partners to make sure that this is going to be a success, weather permitting. And I look forward to a great mission.
Well said, Administrator. Thank you. Yes, we hope to see these 4, again, astronauts you see behind us take off on Sunday, Halloween morning. So yes, set your alarm clocks. The launch time right now that we're targeting is 2:21 a.m. Eastern time, again, on Halloween morning. So what a treat to see that go up if we can. And coverage here is going to start on NASA TV Saturday night at 10 p.m. We'll see you then.